Creepy facts that will keep you up at night, part 1.
Bed mattresses gain weight over time.
This is from all the dead mites, and the dead skin of humans,
and the other disgusting things that are too small to see.
I don't know about you, but I'm getting a new mattress.
The animal that tastes the closest to humans is pork.
So much so that human flesh, in areas where cannibalism occurs,
is referred to as long pork. There are microscopic mites that live on your eyelashes.
Teeny tiny creepy mites
are right by your eyes at all time, eating, mating, pooping, and dying
on your eyelashes right now. This is the creepy story about the farmer.
One dark, stormy night,
a man was driving down a road through a forest. All of a sudden, his engine began to smoke,
and the car slowly came to a stop.
The man then realized he ran out of gas and began walking down the road to the nearest gas station.
Just then, he noticed bright lights in the distance.
As the lights came closer, he realized it was a farmer driving a tractor.
The farmer pulled up next to the man and said,
"What are you doing alone in the forest in the middle of the night?" "My car broke down," said the man. "I need a gas station." "There's no gas station around here for miles," said the farmer. "But if you like, you can stay at my house." The man agreed and thanked the farmer for his kind offer.
The farmer brought him back to his house
and took him to a room to sleep in. The farmer said the house had no electricity, so it's gonna be dark.
The man said that's fine and he fell asleep.
A few hours later,
he was awoken by a noise in his room,
and when he tried to move, he realized he was tied up.
He then realized there was people around his bed with a mask on.
One of the people then said, "We don't want to do this, but our farm cannot grow food,
so we are hungry."
The man screamed
as they cut him up piece by piece.
Scary facts about North Korea, part 3.
North Korea has a fake propaganda village that was built to look like a peaceful place,
so people from South Korea will come up to North Korea.
But in reality, the village is completely empty. All the buildings have no windows, and all the lights that come on are set on automatic timers.
The only people that are ever here
are just maintenance workers. North Korea's most popular attraction is visiting Kim Jong-il's preserved body.
North Korea tells their citizens
that this man has godlike abilities and that they must pray to him. Right now, as we speak,
North Korea has closed down their capital
and are executing citizens to stop the spread of COVID-19.
This is super disturbing,
and I feel bad for everybody living in this country.
These are scary what-if thoughts that will keep you up at night, part 3.
What if the person that we see in the mirror
is actually from a different dimension,
and the reason that we cannot enter it
is because every time that we try and go through it,
our other self stops us? Next up, what if the phobias that people have
are based on how they died in the past?
Maybe that's why we are afraid to do things that we never tried, because it's already how we died. Finally, what if there are multiple souls in your body,
but you're the most powerful one, so you have control over your body?
And the voices in your head are actually just the weaker souls trying to talk to you.
This is the scary story about the wine.
There was a married couple who loved wine.
They loved wine so much
that they bought multiple wine barrels for themselves.
It was the best tasting wine that either of them ever had.
The couple always invited friends over
to try the wine, and they too thought it was the best wine ever.
But one night, after the couple finished a barrel of wine,
they tried moving it
and realized that it was extremely heavy for an empty barrel of wine.
So the couple opened the lid, and what they saw inside made them freeze.
There was a dead body inside, all moldy and stained with wine.
The couple then opened up every other barrel,
and to their surprise, there was a dead body in each one.
This whole time, the couple's favorite wine
had a dead, decomposing body in it.
This is the creepy story about Afraid of the Dark.
There was a young boy who was afraid of the dark.
Every night he would leave the lights on when he went to sleep. His parents got tired of this
and told the boy he has to grow up.
But the boy continued to sleep with the lights on. One weekend, his parents went on a business trip
and left the boy home alone for the whole weekend. That night, the boy stayed up late and watched a scary movie.
After he got done with the movie,
he went to his room
and read a scary story. But the lights were still on, so he didn't feel scared at all.
The boy then fell asleep and woke up to the lights being off.
He immediately got scared because he knew he left them on. He then heard a creepy giggle in the corner of his room. The boy then looked over and he couldn't move.
Standing there was a creepy, demonic-looking woman
just staring at the boy.
When his parents got home a couple days later,
they couldn't find their son anywhere in the house until they looked through his room.
When his parents looked in his closet,
they found their son's dead body hanging up in the closet
like a coat on a hanger.
This is the scary story about the hot summer night.
One beautiful hot summer night,
a girl named Julie was swimming with her boyfriend in her pool.
They then decided to go skinny dipping.
Her boyfriend stood behind her and wrapped his arms around her. He then kissed her shoulder as they looked at the night sky, dreaming of a future together. A few minutes later, they heard a strange noise coming from the bushes, but they weren't paying much attention to it. They were so comfortable together. Just then, Julie turned around to kiss her boyfriend, but she didn't see anything behind her. She turned around and realized that her boyfriend's head was missing. It had been cut off. Julie let out a terrifying scream as his headless corpse sank to the bottom of the pool. In a panic, she scrambled out of the pool and ran inside her house to warn her parents. When she got to the kitchen, she came face to face with her stepfather, who was washing his bloody hands in the sink. This is the creepy story about the train. One night, a girl was taking a train home. When she got on the train, it was only her and one other man. The girl was very tired, and it wasn't long before she fell asleep. A few minutes later, she was woken up by the sounds of the train. When the girl opened her eyes, she felt as if something was different. It seemed as if the man on the train moved one seat closer to the girl. The girl thought she was imagining things and began to fall asleep again. But a few seconds later, she got another unpleasant feeling in her stomach. When she opened her eyes, the man seemed to move even closer to her. The girl then decided to fake sleep and watched the man with one eye open. The man just sat there, not moving a muscle, just staring at her. The girl then heard the man whispering something underneath his breath. He was saying, "Don't be fooled, she's just pretending," over and over again. This made the girl's blood turn cold. When the train stopped, the girl scrambled out of her seat and jumped out of the train doors. When she turned around, she saw the man's face pressed up against the glass with a very big knife in his hand. These are the strangest addictions that people have ever had. This is Toby Sheldon, or also known as the Justin Bieber lookalike. He has become so obsessed with Justin Bieber that he devoted his whole life to look like him. He has been getting surgery since 2008 and has spent well over $100,000. So what do you guys think? Does he look like Justin Bieber? This is Carrie, also known as the Pee Woman. She has this name because she's addicted to her own pee. She is addicted to smelling and drinking her own pee, and she also bathes in it. She has about 5 glasses of her pee a day, and she also brushes her teeth with it. She has had this addiction for well over 8 years now, and it is completely disgusting. This is the creepy story about the night ride. A man named Jerry was driving home late one night when he saw a young lady waiting at a bus stop. He stopped his car and told her that the buses don't run this late and offered her a ride. It was a chilly night, so he took off his jacket and gave it to her. Jerry found out the girl's name was Mary. After hours of driving, they arrived at Mary's house. Jerry dropped her off by the front door, said goodnight, and then drove home. The next day, he remembered that Mary still had his jacket. He then drove back to her house and knocked on the door. An old woman answered the door. Jerry told her how he gave her daughter a ride home last night and she still had his jacket. The woman looked very confused. Jerry noticed a picture of Mary on the fireplace mantle. He pointed to it and told the woman that's who he gave a ride home last night. In a shaking voice, the woman told Jerry that her daughter has been dead for years and was buried in a cemetery many miles away. Jerry then got in his car and drove to the cemetery. When he got to the cemetery, he found his jacket neatly folded on top of a grave, and the name on the gravestone was Mary. This is the creepy story about the wife. There was a man at work one day when he got a call from his wife. His wife was saying, "Come home quickly, something is very wrong." The man then rushed out of work without telling anybody he was leaving. He then got in his car and started to speed away. When he got to his house, he didn't notice anything wrong with the house. He then went inside and started screaming his wife's name, but nobody answered. He then called her phone, but she didn't answer. Then searched the whole house head to toe and still couldn't find her. He began to panic. He was about to call 911 when suddenly he heard his wife say, "Honey, I'm in the kitchen." He rushed over to the kitchen excited to see his wife, but nobody was there. The man was positive he heard his wife call out to him, but then suddenly he began to shake and sweat. He then thought there was no way his wife called him or is at the house because she has been dead for the past 2 years. Creepy facts that will keep you up at night, part 2. 72% of shopping carts in the whole world have poop on the handles. No wonder why they give you wipes to wipe it down. If you just drink 1 can of soda every day, it increases your chances of getting type 2 diabetes by 22%. I recommend everybody who drinks soda to stop. If your toothbrush sits out in your bathroom, it collects fecal matter every time you flush the toilet. So technically every time you brush your teeth, you're brushing them with your own poop. This is the creepy story about calling her name. One night, a girl was in bed watching a movie when she heard her mom calling her name from downstairs. She was really enjoying the movie, so she just ignored her. But after a couple minutes, she kept hearing her mom call her name. The girl then eventually paused the movie and was going to see what her mom wanted.
As the girl was halfway down the stairs,
she heard her mother's voice from the top of the stairs say,
"Don't go downstairs, I heard it too."
Not even a second later,
she heard her name being called from downstairs again.
This is the creepy story about the sad clown.
One night, a girl had a strange dream.
She was standing on the road that led to her school. The road was completely empty, and she began walking.
Just then, she got a feeling that somebody was watching her.
She turned around and saw a small figure in the distance. It seemed to be running full speed. Every time she looked behind her, the figure was closer. It just kept gaining on her, getting closer and closer.
Every time the girl stopped, the figure stopped too.
Eventually, the figure got close enough so that she could make out its face.
It was a clown.
It was one of those sad clowns you see in paintings. The way he was staring at her made her think, if he catches me, he will kill me.
She saw her school in the distance and began to run.
Just as she reached the main gate of the school, she turned around and the clown was right behind her.
The clown wasn't angry. Instead, he looked desperate and he was crying.
The clown then said, "I got you." He then pulled out a knife and said,
"The second time I catch you, I'll have to cut you. And the third time I catch you, I'll have to kill you. See you soon." The girl's been up for days now
because she thinks if she falls asleep,
the clown will be in her dreams waiting to kill her.
This is a scary story about the black box.
There was once a young married couple who had a baby.
The father wanted to name the baby Nicholas, and the mother wanted to name him Jack. They had a big argument about this issue, and as a result,
the mother flew into a murderous rage and killed the father.
Desperate to get rid of the evidence, she chopped them up into tiny pieces and locked them inside of a black box.
Then she drove 50 miles away to a river
and chucked the box into it.
That night, as she went to bed, she heard a sound.
Black box, 50 miles away. The woman thought it was just in her head, but 2 minutes later she heard black box, 20 miles away.
Now the woman was completely scared
and then checked on her baby. Nothing was there and she went back to bed. Then a few minutes later she heard black box, I'm coming up your street. The woman was terrified.
Just then her front door opened and she heard
black box, I'm coming in your house.
Then she heard her baby scream
and then black box, I'm killing your baby. Then black box, I'm going to kill you.
The woman and her baby were found dead the next day with blood everywhere.
Creepy facts that will keep you up at night, part 3.
You have never actually seen your face.
You only saw it through photos or reflections
or a mirror.
So maybe we don't even know what we look like.
Human beings have been responsible for 322 animal extinctions
over the last 500 years. If everyone knew this fact, maybe us humans would change our ways.
When Hitler was only 4 years old,
he was saved from drowning in a river in Germany
by a local priest.
If that priest never saved him,
the horrible things Hitler done would have never happened,
and the history of our planet would be completely different. This is the creepy story about the mole.
There was a girl named Ava who kept having a reoccurring dream.
Every night in her dream, she would see a handsome boy. He would always say, "Come on, come to me, I'm waiting for you." The more she saw him, the more she fell in love with him. She then believed that this boy was her soulmate. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and she asked him, "Who are you? Where are you? How can I find you?"
"Tomorrow at 12, said the boy, "at the entrance of the park.
You will recognize me from the mole on my face."
The next morning, Ava woke up
with butterflies in her stomach. She hurried to her friend's house and told her about the dream and begged her friend to go with her.
At 11:55, the two girls were waiting at the entrance of the park.
They stared at every boy who walked by, looking for the mole on his face. Ava then said she was going to get some ice cream, and she ran across the street.
But suddenly she got hit by a car.
Ava's friend rushed over to her body, and Ava's body was in a pool of blood, completely twisted.
The person who hit her then got out of the car.
When the boy rushed over to see if Ava was okay, Ava then recognized the mole on his face. It was the boy from her dream. Then, at exactly 12 o'clock,
she took her last breath and died.
This is the scary story about the surgery.
There was a man named Jerry who got into a car accident.
He was in critical condition and badly hurt.
But the person he hit
was a young 16-year-old girl who died on impact.
Jerry was then rushed to the hospital
and immediately got put in the surgery.
They then put Jerry to sleep and began working on him.
But as they started working on him, Jerry realized that he was not asleep.
He felt every single thing that the surgeons were doing to him, and he heard everything.
But he couldn't open his eyes, move, or talk.
He was in agonizing pain and wanted to die or for it to just be over. After about an hour-long surgery, they finally finished.
Jerry then finally woke up fully
and began telling the surgeons that he felt everything and heard everything
while they were working on him.
The surgeon then looked at him with an evil look on his face and said, "That girl you killed in the car crash
was my daughter.
So I gave you the right amount of dosage to keep you awake so you would feel everything. I wanted you to feel the same pain my daughter felt."
These are the most bone-chilling photos on the internet, part 3.
This was just a normal picture of a wedding until you look in the background and you can see what appears to be a cult wearing hoods and robes. This is super disturbing, and I wonder what their intentions were for being at that wedding. Next is a photo of a man who was dressed as Santa, going door to door surprising kids. But they had no idea that this man would later kidnap them and most likely killed them, because these two girls were never found. And the Santa Claus costume that the man is wearing is also very chilling. Finally is this photo. This photo looks photoshopped, but it's not. This couple has on what appears to be some sort of animal mask, posing for a picture. This photo just gives me chills looking at it, and there's just something about it that makes it very disturbing. This is the very cursed Chinese wedding photo. This photo was taken in 1922 in a small village in China. The girl was 17 years old and came from a rich family, and the young man was 19 years old and was very popular with the ladies. They got engaged and were about to get married, but before the wedding ceremony, the girl caught a fever and died. Her grieving family insisted that the young man would go along with the marriage, despite the fact that their daughter is dead. He then decided to run away and join the army instead. But the girl's family had a lot of power and influence, and they forced the man to return and go along with the wedding ceremony. When this photo was taken, it was midnight and the girl had been dead for 6 days. If you look closely, you can notice that the girl's feet aren't even touching the ground. They say that if you stare at the photo long enough, you will see the girl smile back at you, and if you do see her smile, bad things will happen to you. This is the scary story about the keyhole. One night, a man went to a hotel and walked up to the front desk to check in. The woman at the front desk gave him his key and told the man on the way to his room, there was a room with no number on it and it was locked, and nobody was ever allowed into it no matter what. The man followed the instructions and went straight to his room and immediately fell asleep. The next night, curiosity got the better of the man, and he decided to go to the room with no number. When he got to the room, he tried to open it, but it was locked. He then bent down and looked through the keyhole. He saw a very creepy old woman sitting in the room. He was about to knock, then decided not to, and went back to his room. The next night, he looked through the keyhole again, but this time all he saw was red. He thought the person in there blocked it off with red paper because they knew he was looking in, so he just walked away. He then decided to go down to the woman at the front desk and ask her about the room. She told him that a man murdered his wife in that room and her ghost haunts it. She then said those people were not ordinary. They were white all over except for their eyes, which were completely red. This is the scary story about Watch Your Feet. There was a man who lived alone in an apartment. It wasn't the nicest, but it had everything he needed. Every night he would get home late from work and go straight to bed. But for the past couple nights, he had a very strange feeling that somebody was watching him. He always tried to ignore it, but he never could. It kept him up for hours. Then one night he was laying in his bed. The man was very hot, so he put his feet outside the covers. Then suddenly something grabbed him and yanked him, trying to pull him off the bed. The man immediately freaked out and packed all his important belongings and left. The man then moved apartments and would never sleep with his feet outside the blanket again. This is the scary story about the washing machine. There was a young girl who was babysitting 2 children. After the parents left, she put the children to bed and went downstairs and watched TV. Suddenly, she heard a noise coming from the basement. It was the washing machine starting up. She was about to go turn it off, but when she opened the basement door, the noise stopped. She shrugged her shoulders and went back to watching TV. 5 minutes later, she heard the washing machine start up again. She got up and opened the basement door and began to walk down the steps. She only went down a few steps, and then the noise stopped. She then went back to watching TV. 5 minutes later, she heard the washing machine start up again. The girl was worried and went upstairs and grabbed the children and ran over to their neighbor's house to call the police. The police arrived a few minutes later and went down to search the basement. They found a man with an axe hiding behind the washing machine. He was trying to lure the babysitter down into the basement in order to kill her. This is the creepy story about the schoolgirl. A man was driving home from work one evening when he came to a railroad crossing. The lights then turned red and he stopped his car in front of the tracks. He then heard the bell and the barriers come down. He then saw a schoolgirl hurrying down the sidewalk. She was trying to cross the track before the train came. When the girl was halfway across the tracks, she suddenly stopped. Her foot was caught in the metal rail. The train was approaching fast. The man watched in horror as the girl tried to free herself. He then jumped out of his car and began screaming and waving his arms, attempting to warn the train driver, but it was no use. The girl couldn't free herself as she then screamed, "I don't want to die." The man then turned away and hid his eyes as the train came past the intersection. He heard the girl's screams suddenly get cut off. When he opened his eyes, he was expecting a very horrific sight, but there was no sign of the girl's body. There was no blood at all. He then looked around and saw a marble plaque on the ground that said, "In loving memory of our darling daughter, who was taken from us too soon. Rest in peace."
This is the scary story about the tip.
2 girls just went out to eat and they were on their way home.
Their names were Julia and Kim. Kim told Julia to pull over because she didn't feel good. Julia pulled over,
And Kim began puking on the side of the road.
neither of them knew why she was puking, and assumed it was something she ate at the restaurant.
But then all of a sudden, Julia started to puke too.
The 2 friends were puking uncontrollably on the side of the road. Then a random car pulled up next to them,
The person then got out of the car.
and the 2 girls recognized the person. It was their waiter, who was bringing out their food at the restaurant. The man then got down on one knee and said this to the girls:
"I poisoned you both."
"Puking is only the first thing that's gonna happen to you. Next, your organs will fail, then you'll go paralyzed and die."
The 2 girls started screaming and cursing at the man.
He then got up and walked away, but before he got in his car, he turned around and said to the 2 girls,
"Next time, leave me a tip." Oh wait, there won't be a next time.